It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, how are we feeling on this very fine Tomlin Tuesday?
Jet lagged.
I was gonna ask that. So yesterday you were on a beach during the show. Now we see the very infamous board of credentials behind you. So very different behind you. But I was gonna ask about the jet lag too.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to take a nap after this. The key is to not take a nap, but I don't know if I'm gonna make it. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. 3-hour time difference too. I mean, that's.
Well, the 3-hour time difference in the red-eye flight. The red-eye, I can deal with the time difference. It's the red-eye flight home that's the real killer.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's get into Tomlin Tuesday then. Alan, I don't know. We could take this a ton of different directions to start here. Tomlin touched on a lot of different things. So I guess I will just leave it to you to kind of give us a rundown in terms of what Tomlin talked about today.
Mostly healthy. No update on Cam Hayward. But other than that, it sounds like Cole Holcomb might be limited early in the week, but it should play. Ant McFarland said he's have an opportunity to play. Sure seems like he's close. They still have that open roster spot. He talked a lot about the penalties, specifically about the personal foul penalties and some other things. And he said, they have to do a better job of like reading the vibe of the officials and understanding Deontay Johnson and Ahkello Witherspoon are buddies. And so, Deontay Johnson, Ahkello Witherspoon did not feel taunted by Deontay Johnson, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, the officials were being super sensitive, and you've got to know the situation and how things are being called and not take that penalty. And I thought that was a really interesting point that I don't think we had made, is that a taunt is not all these things that we're talking about. I mean, the blocking back towards your end zone thing is pretty black and white, but taunting is always subjective. You've got to have an idea of the way the game is being officiated, the context of what's happening around it, and I think that is a good point by Mike Tomlin about why that happened for the Steelers.
When he brought that up and I read that today on X, I had never thought about that. And I don't know if this is what he meant to in-game understanding the way it's being called, but even in preparation for the game, looking at the officials and how they've called games in the past and going back, is that something that they do too? Is scouting the officials?
Yes. In fact, there have been weeks where you'll be at practice and I will hear Mike Tomlin say something like, this crew has the most flags in the league, or this crew has the second most flags in the league. So there'll be a play in, let's say it's 7 shots in practice, right? The defensive back goes up and makes a play, and Tomlin will say, no, PI, win for the offense. And then the defensive back come over to him. He's like, they're going to call it this week. Look at what this crew does. That is something that they absolutely make part of their preparation. And so that probably is a little telling about why specifically maybe that Mike Tomlin was so upset about that post game, especially if that is something they had talked about beforehand. Yeah. That probably makes it a little bit more frustrating. George Pickens also said after the game, he's like, we know that on the road you're gonna get more of those penalties. It's just the way it's gonna go down. That the guy on the road is gonna you're gonna lose the tie a lot of times on those kind of penalties. And if you're on the road, you can't be putting yourself in a position to let them call that penalty on you.
I have recently coined a term, ball knowledge, and I'm about to show my lack of ballage here because I want to ask you about. Ballage. Well, I want to ask you about one of these penalties, and it might reveal at least one aspect where there's not a lot of ballage. There might be a crack in the chink in the armor here, because on the Deontay Johnson taunting towards the end of the game, shouldn't that been, in my opinion, the way that I've thought about this is I thought the pass interference would make it a first down with the personal foul, the taunting on Deontay Johnson being after the play, so it'd still be first down, but they would have the yardage difference.
So if it had been a dead ball foul, it would have been first down and you lose the 15 yards. but the officials did not call it a dead ball foul. And they have a lot of discretion about whether a personal foul is a continuation of something that happened during the play or if it was a new act after the play. And that's the difference between a live ball foul and a dead ball foul. It doesn't matter if the flag is actually thrown after the whistle is blown. It's all about like whether this is a continue action, so let's say like I'm blocking you down the field, right? I'm blocking you. The play's dead. The whistle blows. I'm still blocking you. And now I'm going to pancake you after the play, right? Okay. That's a live ball penalty, even though the personal foul literally happens because I'm blocking you after the play. Like if the play was still going on, I could block you legally all day long. No problem. But even though that is a penalty for blocking after the play, that's a live ball foul because it's a continuation of an act that began as part of the play. A dead ball foul would be, you tackle my quarterback as he's going out of bounds, and then after you tackle him, I come over and shove you, right? Okay, so my act happens after the play had ended, and then that becomes a dead ball foul. In this instance, because you're calling a personal foul on Deontay Johnson, and because the penalties offsetting would have greatly benefited the Steelers, I'm sure that the officials were like, well, I'm not calling this personal foul to help you. Like I'm calling this, they want to give the team, the other team, the team that is the gaining the advantage here from this penalty, the greatest possible advantage. So I'm sure it's there is no black and white. It's a judgment decision about whether that should be a live ball or a dead ball foul. Obviously, it being called a live ball was very advantageous to the Rams, and so that's probably why they did it. But yeah, that was one that like it kind of like caught my attention when it happened, and then I was like, I don't know. And in the rule book, like I said, it took a little while to find it because it's not very clear, but I did eventually find the difference there. So that's why that was not that they offset instead of both being accepted.
Well, and to be honest, so I guess it really wasn't a lack of ballage on my part because I thought it was called a dead ball foul, so I didn't even realize that they didn't consider it a dead ball, and that was more so why I was confused. So I was like, if that was a dead ball, wouldn't it have been still them getting the first down yardage from their penalty? But okay, obviously it didn't end up mattering anyway because, like you said, they want to give them the greatest advantage, the Rams, but then end up obviously it not even mattering because on the fourth down play, Kenny Pickett, short of the first down, gets marked first down. But okay, back to Tomlin Tuesday. We kind of went off on a personal foul tangent there. What else did he talk about that caught your ear?
There was a lot actually. So he was very complimentary of Dan Moore. Didn't really explain his decision. But was very complimentary. Dan Moore thought he played very well. Talked a lot about Patrick Peterson moving around and how like he's said he's comparable to Cam Sutton. Like in like that he can also do several things. Like sure, but so is Elijah Riley. Like so was Trey Norwood, cut by the 49ers today.
Yeah.
The ability to do multiple things does not make you doing multiple things a good idea.
Right.
Versatility is great if you're actually good. I remember, oh God, no, this is a tangent though. Like when the Pirates got like real into utility players, like in the like 13, 14, 15, 16 time frame. And like Sean Rodriguez was a great defender at like 6 positions. Now he didn't really hit and it wasn't like a very good player, but he made like himself valuable because of his versatility, because he was really good on defense no matter where they put him. There's lots of other guys like Adam Frazier was technically versatile, but he's stuck on defense no matter where you put him. But he wasn't good at any of them until they finally stuck him at second base and let him stay there and sort of develop. And so like being able to be in multiple spots is only a good thing if you're good in those multiple spots. And so far, look, maybe safety is the answer of Patrick Peterson. I think that's a real theory. Like we've seen, Rod Woodson did it towards the end of his career. We've seen there's been other examples too of older corners making that transition late in the game to try to hang on for a couple more years. I'm just not sure that the Steelers need him to be a safety right now. They need a corner. Like if they, Nick said, they could add a safety. They could add a safety, number 20, but they need to add a corner first. Like that would be a great, like adding a corner and then moving Patrick Peterson to safety, I think would be a wonderful pair of additions for this team. They're thin though, man. Like, and we talked about Joey in the past, but they really just do not have a player that is capable of doing it all right now, let alone two. And they're trying to mix and match these pieces. It's been a struggle. But yeah, man, the comparison to Cam Sutton is quite skin deep there.
Yeah, I was going to ask what you thought of Patrick's game on Sunday. I mean, they used him in like we're saying in a lot of different ways: corner, safety, like inside and outside corner, half field, free safety. Like they moved him all around within the 67 snaps that he played. What did you think of his game overall?
I thought the zone coverage was generally very good. I thought the man coverage was okay, like to not okay. Like sometimes it was good enough, and a lot of times it wasn't. Tackling, not good enough either. The whole unit doesn't tackle well enough. I think that's been a very consistent problem. And, I'm not as familiar with Patrick Peterson's tackling, but Levi Wallace was a very sturdy tackler last year for the Steelers. I don't understand, what's happened there. And with Joey, it just seems like it's a matter of learning some technique and growing into that role. But man, it's a struggle right now.
I'm not very familiar in terms of like the entire body of work in Minnesota, but at least within like Arizona, I always thought Patrick Peterson was one of the better, more willing tacklers at the corner position, which is why I was like, oh, this is so good to get him, Joey Porter in here and learn from him and Levi, who have both been able to do. It's insane to me that it's just completely disappeared from the unit this year.
Yeah, it's been very weird. A couple other things that Tomlin touched on. I'm trying to remember back here. He talked a good bit about the Puka Nacua challenge that I had a long discussion on X about, where he basically said, look, I saw it live. I thought it was really close. They were going fast. I wasn't getting any information. I just had to make a decision about whether I wanted to challenge it or not, and I thought it was close enough and a big enough play that it was worth it. And I think that's I know Mike Tomlin gets a lot of criticism for his use of challenges, but I don't really have a problem with that. I don't know. What are your thoughts there? Like if it's a 30-yard, wasn't that a third down too? Like if it's a 30-yard completion on third down to put them in field goal range, and it's at worst really close, and you don't not getting anything, and they're going fast, so they think it's close. I don't have a problem with just throwing the flag, even if you're not sure. What are your thoughts there?
I felt the exact same way. And wasn't that the drive that was extended because of TJ being offsides?
Yes.
So I was like, I felt like that was kind of, hey, I'll bring in Tomlin's quote here. I thought that football justice would be served on this challenge with the drive coming to an end on that play instead of when it should have with TJ being offsides. But yeah, I didn't have an issue with the challenge. If it's close enough like that in the heat of the moment, everybody's going to be able to, with the benefit of replay and hindsight being 2020, say that it was a bad challenge. I really didn't feel so. Like you got to realize.
I'll tell you what, with the benefit of replay and hindsight, I still don't think it was a bad challenge. I think they got screwed.
No,
I think it was a bad call even on replay. And this is a way in the weeds NFL ruling. But if you're like a dedicated NFL watcher, you'll remember this play coming back. It happened to Antonio Brown once. It happened to T. Higgins last year. There was a sort of
I was going to say just even last year with T. Higgins.
It was a notorious example with Des Bryant where he was nearly horizontal, reaching out to catch a ball. And it was actually the side of his shoe that touched out of bounds. But if you toe tap, for it to be a toe tap, only the toes can touch the ground. Like if you touch both toes and then you go out of bounds, that's a toe tap, that's in. If you touch both toes and you drag them out of bounds, that's in. If more of your foot touches than the toes, then all of the foot that touches has to land in bounds. And It didn't. His toe lands, and then the heel follows the toe. It's not a toe tap. Dean Blandino said, "Oh, it's a toe tap." It's very clearly there's an approved ruling in the rule book that is literally called heel toe, toe heel. Like it is exactly for that scenario. And the really weird thing is that there were two of those. Jake Bobo made a catch in Seattle that maybe is even worse than Nakua's, and they both got called good yesterday on Sunday. I don't know if they changed something, if the replay guy working for the NFL that day was screwing it up. I don't know, but that has been very consistent. And the thing is, like, everyone on X was like, "Oh, that's a catch, obviously, look." And then I explained the rule, and they're like, "Well, that rule's dumb." I'm like, yes, everybody has hated that rule every time it's ever been called. Like, people were livid that T. Higgins catch was not a touchdown last year.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very, maybe not very well known, but a moderately well known rule. Like, it's not super obscure that, like, people know that that's the way that's supposed to be called, and they just totally got it wrong. Unless they've made some kind of big change to the way that's interpreted, that they have not announced. It's very strange.
I think that's the frustration, is it just hasn't been called consistently. When you look at last year with T. Higgins, with Puka Nacua and Jake Bobo, but you've seen ones go both ways. So I don't know. I think that's probably where the frustration comes from. But was that all that he talked about with Nacua? Was the challenge, or obviously they were able to limit Cooper Kupp, but Puka Nacua got his, and probably had some praise in terms of Puka Nacua's performance.
Didn't talk that much about it. Maybe in his open a little bit. I don't recall. He certainly wasn't asked about it. And then we talked mostly about it was a strange press conference. We talked about a lot of things that I honestly did not care.
Did anybody bring up? We talked yesterday how we were kind of thrown off with the tight end utilization the Steelers ended up having. No one asked about that?
Yeah, no. We asked a bad question about it, and then I tried to ask a better question, and I got a one-word answer.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. We screwed that one up. No, basically, I didn't get an answer about the tight end utilization. Wanted to. I asked pretty directly about, and he just said, "Yeah, well, Pat's out." Well, I know Pat's out, but Pat was out last week too, and it looked very different last week than this week.
Okay. Oh, actually, I want to get to this after, but there was a question I definitely wanted to ask you. Trevor Lawrence. I know that you put that on here in terms of notes. Did Tomlin touch on Trevor Lawrence at all?
Yeah, I asked him about Trevor Lawrence and his. I was trying to get and I'm still probably going to write the story, but we've talked on this podcast about how I feel like Trevor Lawrence is, like, maybe not like 1-to-1, but a really, like, near best case scenario for looking at the struggles to start the career for Kenny Pickett and what it could turn out to look like. Because Trevor Lawrence 2 seasons ago was horrendous. I mean, just unplayably bad. And now he is, I don't know, a top 10 quarterback. Maybe just inside that. Not necessarily the best in the league, but certainly very, very good. He was 7th in MVP voting last year. The Jaguars are 5-2. Like, now, look, I covered these guys play against each other in college. Kenny Pickett is not Trevor Lawrence physically.
Right.
All right, let's just say that. But Trevor Lawrence's passer rating went from 71.9 as a rookie to 95.2 last year. Went from 33.5 QBR as a rookie to 56.1 last year. His completion percentage went from 59 to 66. His touchdown percentage went from 2 to 4.3. His interception percentage dropped from 2.8 to 1.4. In his second 17 games, he was better at everything than he was in his first 17 games. Does that feel like it should be on? Like, I feel like, this is the path, but also like the Jags had this drastic change in coaching that I'm not sure Kenny Pickett is going to get, right? So like how, I guess the hard thing to separate is how much of Trevor Lawrence getting better this year and last year has been about Trevor Lawrence and about maturing as an NFL player, and how much of it is like that first coaching staff he had was borderline incompetent, and now he's got a pretty good one, and they're getting the best out of him. And does that mean that, like, what's the lesson to be learned here to apply to Kenny Pickett? I think that's still very much an open question.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know how far you were going to go within that, but I was certainly going to bring up the fact that he had Urban Meyer year one and then got Doug Peterson, who is somebody that we have seen bring along quarterbacks in the past in the building, you know, and say what you will about their offensive coordinator, Press Taylor. I know that he's gotten a lot of scrutiny for how they started out the season, especially offensively, but they've kind of started to right the ship here, I feel like. But yeah, you know, in terms of the prospects, obviously, like Trevor Lawrence was considered, you know, bust proof, you know, generational talent coming in. Obviously, Kenny was not considered that type of player, but you do have to wonder how much would a coaching change benefit him, and could we see a similar leap under a new coaching staff?
It's a very interesting question. We'll see. I mean, their schedules aren't going to line up, right? Because Lawrence started from game one of his rookie year, so he had a 17-game rookie season. Pickett now just at 18 starts through a season and a half. So you know, it's not going to be 1-to-1. We're not going to get that same kind of neat perspective. But I mean, I think we can all pretty much agree that if things don't get better for Kenny Pickett this year, that he's getting a new offensive coordinator, right? I mean, that just seems pretty much, you know, like it's happening now. So
even Mike McCoy's on that staff as well. I mean,
does what happened with Lawrence and the coaching staff change or at all like inform the way you feel if Kenny never gets better this year? Like, I think if the Steelers had a different coordinator, one that had more success, or if this example of that kind of change coming at the same time as that kind of change in results weren't out there, maybe I would feel differently about a full year of struggles from Kenny Pickett as a starting quarterback. But like, I just don't feel like no matter what happens, you almost can't give up on him this year. You almost have to go into like no matter what happens, you almost have to go into 2024 with him as the quarterback, because either he earned it or he didn't earn it, and they're going to fire the coordinator and see what really was the problem, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, people have asked me, like, when is the earliest I feel like the Steelers would pull the plug on Kenny Pickett? And I said after the 2024-2025 season. I cannot see it being
maybe mid-season 24, like
sure, yeah, but I mean, like, you know, bringing in another franchise quarterback.
Then it's just going to be Mitch Trubisky, right? Like, there's not, you know, there's not going to be another option then. And so, yeah, I mean, I just think that like that it's really it's a big downside to the way they did business here, where, you know, there's nobody else other than Canada, so they stuck with him. And there's no quarterback guru. There's not even a guy who played quarterback on the staff. You know, and so it's hard to see that, like, it just feels like if things don't go well, like, you know, and I'm forgetting who this quote is attributed to, but I love it. It's I never lose. I either win or I learn. And like that like, I feel like the Steelers are screwing that up, right? Like they're either going to win or they're still not going to know. Like that's very difficult.
Yeah. If I look that up, it comes up Nelson Mandela. So you know,
there we go.
Great quote to pull there. But yeah, I want to ask you, actually, this is from one of our very loyal listeners, viewers. I don't know if they watch on YouTube or listen, but Joe Aber, who's always tweeting at us, actually was at this game, this Rams game on Sunday. So he tweeted at us and said he noticed something. He saw Highsmith and Watts switch sides a few times depending on matchups. Think that was game specific, or what was the deal with that?
So I asked both TJ Watt and Mike Tomlin about this after the game. So we're on the same wavelength here. I mean, it's only Tuesday, I'm just saying that's a very good call. If I ask 2 questions about a post game and you're sending us tweets about like, hey, I noticed this, I'm saying you got a good shot. And basically what it was is that the Rams were using their tight end to double team TJ Watt. And the Steelers were trying to get him some one-on-ones and also trying to Stafford is pretty good at feeling the rush and like he doesn't like break his look down the field. He just kind of does like a little like shimmy, hop, hop, hop to like get out of the way. And changing where TJ is sort of changes his footwork and his mechanics on his little shuffling in the pocket, right? Because now it's just a little bit different look. A different guy in a different place. And I think that's all they were trying for. It didn't seem to work. Like they didn't, I mean, they did not, did they get 1 sack and it was a defensive lineman, right?
Odin Joby for sure had one.
Yeah.
I don't recall there being another one.
Yeah, I think that's the only one. So I mean, it's not like it got them. No, they had 2. Nick Herbig. Nick Herbig wins with the ghost move.
That was the Wisconsin crew right there. If Loudermilk was on the field, it would have been entirely Wisconsin.
We asked Loudermilk about that, and he said, "I think we would be a very good unit if you got all the Bucky Badgers out there together." Watt, Herbig, Loudermilk, Benton. I mean, does anybody else have like an entire position group from one college like that? That can't have like that. That doesn't happen. Right. I guess the Eagles have 2. They get 3 Alabama skill position players, so they got a couple.
Yeah, I mean, and if if the Eagles keep adding Georgia players the way they are, I mean, they're going to have.
That's true. The Eagles have a whole bunch of Georgia players. Yes, that is true. Their defense has about what? Kobe Dean, Jalen Carter,
Nolan Smith.
Yeah. They get a couple more too, I think.
The corner, Keely Ringo. He ended up there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big Eagles trade. Terrell Edmonds on the move and onto the Steelers schedule. Gonna play this. Yeah. He goes for Kevin Byard and 2 Edmonds and 2 draft picks. So now he's on the Steelers schedule.
I mean, what a like for him, man. That's terrible to go from the Eagles to the Titans, who are clearly like you can tell they're selling off pieces because you were part of a trade of them selling off pieces. Like that's just terrible for him. And this comes right after the viral video of him having so much fun at a Phillies game.
Yes, to a city that doesn't even have a baseball team. Like, I mean, like AAA, but like, man,
they're being robbed of.
He's getting his heart ripped out as a fan before his playing days are even over, which is quite impressive. So maybe he'll like start dating a big country star, and like, that could be. It's the in thing to do in the NFL right now. So,
I don't know who it could be, but I'm all for it. Let's see what happens for him. Actually, I want to ask you: do you think that there's a chance though that he ends up getting flipped, or do you think he spends the rest? You don't see that too often, right? But
you don't. But like, what do they want with him?
Right.
Like, if they could get something for him, I think they would take it. And the Steelers, would you trade a 6th or 7th round pick for Terrell Edmonds right now?
Yes, 100%. Because I think, going back to the conversations about Minkah, does that allow him to, maybe change up his role a little bit and get back to getting the best version of Minkah?
Yeah. And like, is Terrell Edmonds better than Elijah Riley? Yes. Can you afford the whatever $1.3 million salary difference? Almost definitely. Actually, it's not even that much because his signing bonus stayed in Philly. It's probably only like $250,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seems I would do that. I don't know. Well, I'm not sure exactly how that went down. Remember both sides? I actually did remember this, but I just wrote it. So now I remember, but both Terrell and Omar said like, I want to stay. I want to get a deal done. He was like, yeah, we want him. We want to get a deal done. And then he was an Eagle. So I don't know. Something didn't go right there. You never know how a breakup goes.
I almost, this is just my best guess. This isn't anything that I've heard from anybody, but I almost started to wonder if, with Terrell Austin, with the way that they were shifting things and looking at the players that they had brought in, who they prioritized bringing KZ back as opposed to Edmonds, bringing Patrick Peterson, if they really prioritized all their defensive backs having ball skills. And that's why Terrell Edmonds was on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
So I thought maybe that's what it came to. Again, that's not like something that's obviously been said or anything like that. I just, putting 2 and 2 together and how things shook out kind of made me go that way. But Alan, I think that will do it for this episode. Tell the people they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on Twitter, at PGH Steelers Now is the site's account, SteelersNow.com. That's where the words live. Read them so I can get paid. Steelers Now Plus, 10% off, or thereabouts. Promo code Allen10. Use that. Get a sweet deal. Read all the best stuff from me, Derek Bell, and Nick Faribault. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can have another party.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. It's all about the parties here. Alan
10.1. 10.1.
I was just about to look at an updated counter here. 10.1K. There we go. Just keep it coming. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Tell a friend to come subscribe to 10,123 to be exact. That looks cool with the 1, 2, 3 in succession.
10-0, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. I'm Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. Thank you for tuning in to another Steelers Afternoon Drive, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.